Hi folks, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to do a quick tutorial on how to paint Death Guard Plague Marines. And to start with, to give your model a base coat of Death Guard green. You can either do this by painting it on with a brush, you can use an airbrush like I have, or you can also buy Death Guard green in the Citadel spray cans too. The spray cans, if you don't have an airbrush, definitely is worth picking up if you're painting this as an army, as they're nice and fast. Next up, we're going to go through all of the gold bits, and we're painting this with a Balthasar Gold. So just pick up any areas. You can look on the box art, you can look at pictures online, but essentially you'll be able to see from this video where I've decided to go with. So around the tops of the shoulder pads there, just thin your paint down with a little bit of water, and then just put it on nice and clean. Just try and keep it as tidy as you can. We will be washing over the top of it, so that will tidy up anything if you go over, but just try and keep it as tidy as you can. We'll also be picking up gold just around the knee pads there as well, around the kneecaps, just around the bottom of the leg as well, and also just on the back of the wrist guards as well. So once you've painted all of those gold, let them dry, and we'll come back to the next bit. So once you've painted all of the bits you want to be gold, we're going to do the silver parts, and for this we're going to use Citadel's Leadbelcher. So for these silver parts, we're going to do things like the gun, the chainmail down the side, and also those little spikes that come out of the sort of leg armor as well. You just want to, we're going to wash over the top of it, so it doesn't have to be particularly perfect, but you just want to get in with the tip of your brush and just pick those out. When painting the gun as well, if you're painting the same model as this one is, just make sure you don't paint in at the top there, which is the plasma coils. We're going to be doing those a different colour later on. So just get your Leadbelcher and cover all of the gun, down the chainmail, and also the sword on the back. Once all of your silver bits have dried, we're then going to move on to the next bit. And here we're going to paint all of the kind of the gribbly tentacles and stuff that are coming out from your Death Guard Marine with Screamer Pink, again from Citadel Paints. Again, just try and keep it nice and neat. Nice neat lines, keep it quite thin, and just pick them all out. There should be some coming out of the arm there, there's some coming across the top of the chest. I think there's also one that just comes around on the hand, which I think I forgot to paint actually at this point, and I went back and did it later. So I think it comes out of his left arm and around holding the gun. So make sure you don't miss that one as well. But once you've painted all of those, let it dry, and we'll move on to the next stage. And here we are going to do down the cape. I'm painting mine Mephiston Red. Again, these are all Citadel colours. You can paint it whatever colour you want, but I've already done some which have red capes, and I think that the red also seems to merge in quite nicely with the pink of the tentacles too. Again, just try and keep it nice and neat. If you do go over any of the Death Guard green that you shouldn't, you can always just clean it up afterwards, but let it dry first. So once you've completed the cape, again it's on to the next stage. And here we're going to paint the horns that come out the top of his helmet, and there's also some spikes come out from the front of his left leg as well. And here I'm using Ushabti Bone. Try not to get any onto the helmet itself. It's easier if you've left a little gap rather than actually going over onto the helmet, because it does look like it's kind of spiking through from the front. Same with the legs as well, just try and keep them as neat as you can. Again, we will be washing it. And don't forget there's a little skull hanging down there as well. You can do that with the Ushabti Bone too. Once all of the bone has dried, again it's on to the next stage. Okay, so next what we're going to do is we're going to wash the entire model in Agrax Earthshade. Don't try and be too careful with it, just get it straight from the pot and get it straight over the entire model. Use a wash brush just to speed things up a little bit, but you want to coat everything on the model, everything except probably where the plasma coils are, but pretty much everything else. Just put it on nice and thick, make sure you move it around, don't let it pool too much, but we're going to cover the entire model. Once you've done that, let it dry. I sometimes use a hairdryer, but it can make it dry a little bit, kind of with like a tide mark with it a little bit. So sometimes you're better off just letting it dry naturally. But once that's entirely dry, we'll come back and do the next stage. So once it's dry, we're going to do the hardest part of the entire model. We're going to wash it again with Agrax. Yes, it's a second wash straight over the top, so we want to darken it down that little bit more, make the recesses even darker, and make the armor that little bit more grimy. You can, if you're happy with the way it looks after one wash, just leave it at one, but I've done mine with 2 washes and I just like that darker, grimier colour. You might find if you use the spray can rather than an airbrush for the Death Guard green. It might be slightly darker to start with, so maybe one wash will do it, but it's up to you, play it by ear, but I've done it with 2 washes here. Okay, once that second wash is dry, you can see it looks quite flat now, and it's very much dulled down. What we're going to do is we're going to pick out some of those details by highlighting them, and that'll just make it stand out. Things like where the sword there looks very sort of dark and a little bit dirty, and you can also see where the sort of the horns are, the spikes. We're going to dry brush with Runefang Steel now. As you can see there, you need very, very little on your brush. If I wiped across my thumb there was hardly anything come off. So just keep wiping it in there, sort of dry brush motion there, across the top of the gun, and you can see how it's starting to brighten up with the Runefang Steel. Do exactly the same thing down the side of the chainmail there as well, and also across the sword on the back. Here you can see when you do it very lightly across the sword there, how it really just starts to pick up those sharper edges, those high points, and it really does brighten it up, but also leaves some in the recess a little bit kind of worn and a bit dirty. Once you've finished dry brushing the silver, we're then going to come in with a pink horror, and we're just going to highlight up those tentacles. This just helps to make them pop out a little bit, because we've really darkened down that screamer pink with a couple of washes. So here we are just highlighting the tops. As you can see, I'm just putting on a very small amount. I'm not sort of painting the entire area. It's more just to make it stand out that little bit. And you can see, especially when it comes across the chest here as well, it really does just make it stand out from the darker parts of the model. And these are the little bits, these are the tricks really when you're trying to speed paint an army. Is doing things like this will make it look like you've paid a lot more attention to the model. Next up, we're just going to paint the eyeball on the front of the helmet there, and here we're using Evil Sunz Scarlet. And after that's dry, we're going to come back and just put a dot of Wild Rider Red, which is a very orange red colour. It just gives it a little bit of a shine to it. Next, we're going to take the Ushabti Bone, and we're just going to paint across the wraps on the sword handle. This will just make that stand out as well and brighten that up. And also, while you've got that, you can also do the skull on the front as well. As you can see, it's really dulled down. We're just going to pick out and highlight the skull as well, just to make it stand out that little bit. You also want to go and do the horns as well on this, and I forgot to do it at this point. I think I go back and do it later. Next up, I'm using the Temple Guard Blue to paint the plasma coils. All we're trying to do here is keep nice and neat. Then I'm using a blue wash to just wash across the top there, just to darken down inside the recesses. Try not to let it pool down the side there too much. That's it, just wick it away. Once you've let that dry properly, we're going to take a very light dry brush of Pallid Wych Flesh just to pick up the top of the plasma coils. And last but by no means least, this is where we go back and just pick up the horns. I think I actually forgot to do the ones on the foot, but I'll go back and do them afterwards. But I'm just using the Pallid Wych Flesh here, just to kind of give a little bit of a peak, sort of a shine to the peak of the bone. If you went back and did a little bit of Ushabti Bone first, and then maybe do that over the top, it'll give you a bit more of a blend. But it's just these little sort of brighter spot colours that just help these things stand out a little bit. And there you have it, that's the finished model. So from start to finish, including all the bits of filming and stuff I did, I think it took me about an hour and 20 minutes to do this model. The best way to do them would be to batch them as well, so that while, for example, while the gold's drying on the first model, you maybe do another 1 or 2 and then come back to the first one. And if you batch them, I think you'll probably be able to get through a batch of about 5 of these in probably a couple of hours. So, thanks very much for watching. Let me know down in the comments what models you'd like to see painted, and I'll see you in the next video.